If I haven't had a chance to meet you, my name's Chris. I'm lead pastor here at Hoboken Grace, and we are excited about 2025. This past week, I was thinking through it. It's just crazy to me. I was thinking back. I was actually in Times Square in 1999, and I watched the ball drop for year 2000. And most of you are way too young to understand what Y2K was, but just the craziness of it, and then to think that was 25 years ago, and man, I'm so old. And this past year, I was kind of reflecting, as Anthony talked about, this is kind of a time of reflection, and actually next week, we're going to launch into a brand new series called Starting Blocks. We're going to look at, okay, how do we launch into, not just next year, but how do you launch into the future? What is it that God says gives us traction? God talks about this journey as a race, and there are certain things that I think he talks about almost as starting blocks, like these things that allow us to have traction in that race, to be able to really get a good start or to launch ourselves into the race. And so we're going to be kicking that off next week. So make sure that you invite someone to be part of that with you. Before we get there, as we come together today and as we step into the new year, I want to take a second to talk to you about our vision. We talk about our mission here at Hoboken Grace a lot to help people find their way back to God. You've probably heard us say that before, but one of the things that you don't necessarily hear us talk about that much is our vision. So what is it? Not just what is it that we're trying to do, but who is it that we want to be? And that really, here at Hoboken Grace, is captured in two verses. The first one is found in Psalm chapter 1, and it says this. It says, "He is like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in season and whose leaf does not wither. Whatever he does prospers." And it's talking about, the psalmist is talking about someone who delights in God's instruction. In other words, they understand God as our Father, and they don't shy away from that. They run to it. They delight in him speaking into their life. Just like Hannah said, we want him to speak into our life. And it says that that person is like a tree planted by streams of water. And it gives us this picture. And for the last 18 years, we've been growing, and Hoboken Grace has been growing. One of the passages that we've come back to over and over again is this passage, because it really captures what it is that we want to be, not just individually, but collectively. That we want to be like that tree that's planted by streams of living water, that we're rooted in him, that we're consistently experiencing and receiving life from him as we're growing closer to him. And my prayer for you in your life is that that's you, that you're just consistently soaking up life from him, sustained by him, abiding in him. And as it continues, it says it yields fruit in season. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what season it is, whether it's a good season or a bad season. We want to be a church that consistently yields fruit. And that's both the fruit of multiplication. I mean, you saw those baptisms at the end of that video. I kept trying to focus in on one of them to see one face, and I just couldn't keep up with it. There's so many of them. But we want to yield the fruit of multiplication, seeing more people step into relationship with Jesus for the first time, but also the fruit of the Spirit. That his Spirit is literally living through us more, that love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, that fruit is more evident in our lives, the way that we love one another, the way that we engage one another. And we happen to be planted by a river. It just so happens that there's one of the most famous rivers in the world right next to us. And so we've come back to this. You say, what is it that we're trying to be? Well, we want to be like what is described in Psalm 1, that Hoboken Grace would be a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in season, whose leaf does not wither. Whatever we do, that there's just constantly, that we're prospering, not in the way that the world thinks about it, but in the way that God talks about it. And that's our prayer. That's what we're trying to be collectively as a community. That's my prayer for you as an individual, that you would be able to experience that and live that out. The second verse is found in Luke chapter 13, and it says this. It says, "It is like a mustard seed," and it's describing faith and how faith works. "It is like a mustard seed, which a man took and planted in his garden. It grew and became a tree." The mustard seed is a tiny little seed, but it grows and becomes this tree, and the birds of the air perched in its branches. Another translation said the birds of the air make nests in its branches. And this is another passage that we've come back to over and over again, because what we want to be is not just a tree in that we find our home or we are rooted in him, but we want to be able to grow in such a way that others find home. And this idea of the birds making nests in his branches, that they're finding home, a big part of why we secured this building and why we did everything for us to be able to have this building was not just for us to have a home, but for others to find home. And it's been unbelievable. You look back on this past year, so many people have found that. Have found home in a way that they didn't experience it before, have found home away from home, because we come from so many different places here. And we want for others to be able to find that home. And these two passages, you look at this picture that it's being painted here of this tree, not just that's receiving life from him, but this tree that's bringing home to others, that's consistently bearing fruit and growing. You say, who is it that we're trying to be? It's really captured best in those two passages. And that's what we want for you. That's our prayer for you. That's my goal in your life. But it's also what we want to be collectively. This idea of home. This idea of belonging. And you go back to last month and we talked about how Jesus gave his life for you to be part of this family, for you to be able to belong. Not just for you to be like that bird that makes nests in the branches, but for you to actually find out what it is to be that tree that's rooted in him, that idea of belonging and home, connection, abiding. That's what we want to become. But if that's going to happen, there's something that God tells us is critical. And there are two ways that we work to help people belong here at Hoboken Grace. Not just attend. Our vision is not to be able to have a church where there's tons of people who attend, thousands of people who attend but don't belong. That's not our dream. That's not what we're working for. That's not the vision of Hoboken Grace. And if we accomplish it, we will look at it as a failure. Why? Because it's not about attending. It's about belonging. And there's two ways that we do that here at Hoboken Grace. The first one is what we call dinner groups. And these are, if you've never heard us describe dinner groups before, maybe you're here for the first time, dinner group is just a group of 8 to 10 people just like you who get together on a weekly basis to be able to walk through the conversation from Sunday and to be able to just experience and live life together, to be able to encourage one another, to be able to cry together, to be able to laugh together, to be able to walk through everything that 2025 has to offer. And I want to encourage you, if you're not in a group yet, you need to be in a group as we move through the beginning of this year. There may not be another time that's more critical for the rest of the year than the beginning of this year for you to be in group. Because in February, we're launching this thing, and we're going to be moving through, okay, how do we manage really well what it is that God has given us? And most of what we're going to be doing is going to be taking place inside of groups. So if you're not in a group, you're not going to be able to really experience it. We're going to talk about it a little bit on Sundays, but not that much. Most of it is going to be taking place inside a group. So you need to be a part of group. And it's one of those ways where you begin to belong. Most of what God calls us to do inside of one another's lives, you can't do on a Sunday morning. I mean, how much interaction do you even get with the people around you? You got to say Happy New Year to them. You'll get to maybe talk on the way out, but this idea of bearing one another's burdens, you're not doing that on Sunday morning. It's inside of those groups that begins to happen. The second way is inside of teams. So there's two primary pictures that God uses to describe the church when you come to the New Testament or the Christian scriptures. And the first one is family. And we talked about how we've been adopted into this family, and he constantly talks about how the church is this family and how we love one another as a family. We engage one another as family members. But the second one is this idea of a body. And he describes the church as a body, this incredible thing that works together in an unbelievable way with all these different pieces and parts that are very different and unique, and yet they work together to be able to not just survive, but to actually thrive, to be able to engage life. And he says, this is what the church is like. It's all these different pieces that are very uniquely created, and all of them work together to be able to create life, to engage life. And he says, I want for you to be a body. And if we're going to experience, and if we're going to continue moving towards that vision of, oh no, we want to be like this tree. We want to be a place that not just where people attend, but where people belong. Then one of the things that's going to be critical is that we embrace this idea that we are a body. In Ephesians, the writer is writing to the church. He's trying to help them understand this. And he says this. He starts off, he says, as a prisoner for the Lord then, and this is Paul, he's in prison, he says, I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling you've received. In other words, I want for you to live a life worthy of what it is that God's done in your life. I want for you to live a life in response to God's grace in your life, God's love in your life. Okay, what does that look like? What does it look like to properly live in light of what God has done in my life? He continues, be completely humble and gentle, be patient, bearing with one another in love. So he starts to talk about the fruit of the Spirit. He says, I want for you to live in such a way that the fruit of the Spirit is evident in your life. Make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. He says, I want for you to work for unity. It's not that there's not going to be strife and brokenness. The church is still broken. So there's going to be brokenness. But we're striving for unity. He says, there is one body, one Spirit, just as you were called to one hope when you were called, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God, and the Father of all, who is over all and through all and in all. And he says, listen, we're working for unity. Why? Because there's one family. There's one family. And again, it's this idea of belonging. Not just attending, belonging. And then he continues and he talks about this next part. And he does the very same thing in Romans. So when Paul's writing to the church at Rome, he says, I want for you to live, in light of God's grace, I want for you to live your life as a living sacrifice. You say, well, how do you do that? And he talks about these same things. And so as he continues, he says, but to each one of us, grace has been given as Christ apportioned it. Now, he uses this word grace here to describe what he's about to walk through, which is the idea of giftedness. This is why it says, when he ascended on high, he led captives in his train and gave gifts to men. And so he says, not only did Jesus raise from the dead, but in that process, not only did he make it possible for you to be forgiven, not only did he make it possible for you to be made new, but he actually gives to each of us a gift. Something that we get to use as part of the body. What does he ascended mean except that he also descended to the lower earth? Here it's talking about Jesus actually rising from the dead. He who descended is the very one who ascended higher than all the heavens in order to fill the whole universe. It was he, and then it begins to talk about how Jesus gave these gifts. Now in Ephesians, it talks specifically about the equipping gifts. So it talks about pastors and teachers. But in Romans, it talks about all sorts of other gifts. So it talks about hospitality and generosity, and it talks about leadership, all of these other gifts. And in Corinthians, it talks about even other gifts that God has given to us. It says, it was he who gave some to be apostles, some to be prophets, some to be evangelists, some to be pastors and teachers, to prepare God's people for the works of service. In other words, there's those equipping gifts which are given in order to be able to help everyone to be able to live out their giftedness, so that the body of Christ may be built up until we all reach unity in the faith. So we're coming together, that belonging that we're a part of, and the knowledge of the Son of God, and become mature, attaining to the whole measure of the fullness of Christ. He says, this is how you move towards maturity. And then, as he comes out of this, he says, this will keep you from being tossed to and fro. In other words, this is what allows you to be able to escape being tossed to and fro on this journey. I'll talk to people, I'll say, tell me about your journey. What's your faith journey like? They'll say, well, it's kind of like this roller coaster. I have highs, and then I have lows, and then I'm doing really well, and I'm doing really bad, and I'm doing really well, and I'm doing really bad. And they'll say, I don't really know how to get out of that. And the reality is there's always going to be ups and downs. But Paul says, I want for you to escape that. I don't want for you to be tossed to and fro by this and that and the other. He says, I want for you to begin to move towards maturity. Maturity isn't that there aren't ups and downs, but there's a very big difference between a journey that looks like this and a journey that looks like this. And he says, I want for you to begin to move towards maturity. Well, how do you do that? He says, well, you utilize your gift as part of the body. You come together in unity and you display the fruit of the Spirit to one another, and you utilize your gift together as part of this body. Which means, listen to me. You can't do it alone. He says, this is what allows you to move towards maturity. What? When you do it together. You can't do it alone. And listen. We can't do it without you. It takes the whole body. He says, no, if you're gonna live worthy of your calling and what Jesus has done in your life, and if you're gonna move towards maturity, it's not something you do alone, it's something you do collectively. And it's accomplished as you embrace the fruit of the Spirit in one another's lives. You can't demonstrate the fruit of the Spirit alone. You realize that, right? You're like, I'm very patient with myself. Very patient. Super gentle with myself. No. He says, no, you can't do this alone. He says, you're going to demonstrate the fruit of the Spirit with one another. You're going to work towards unity. Can't do that alone. I'm very unified. No. Can't do that alone. And then you utilize the gift that God's given you inside of this body. And then collectively, you can begin to move towards maturity. You can't do it alone, and we can't do it without you. It takes all of us. And so as we move towards this next year, I want to invite you to move away from just attending, and I want to invite you into belonging. I want for you to be part of how, as a church, we can continue to move towards maturity, continue to move towards that vision of being that tree that's soaking up life from Him and bringing it to the world around us. And so here's what we're going to do. We haven't done this in quite a long time here at Hoboken Grace, and I love to be able to do this because I want for you to be able to meet these people. And I also want you to know what it is that we do here at Hoboken Grace and what we do as a church. And so here, in just a few seconds, as a matter of fact, you guys can go ahead and start coming up. As we move forward, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring on stage the leaders of all of our departments here at Hoboken Grace. And what I'm going to have them do is I'm going to have them share with you what it is that their department does, the teams that are part of their department. And I've asked them to answer 3 questions. Number 1, what are the teams that are part of your department? What are you excited about? And what is one role that people wouldn't expect? Because here's what I get. Whenever I start to talk about, hey, listen, you need to be part of this. You need to belong. You need to bring your unique giftedness. People will say, no, there's no place for me. There's no place for me. I'm very unique. There's no place for me. You wouldn't believe how many places there are for you. And I want to take away that excuse today. I want to eliminate that excuse. And so they're all going to share with you what it is that they do and how you can be a part of that. Now, I know that some of you are here and you're already serving. You say, well, I'm already part of a team. Well, one of the things that Corinthians says is he says, I want for you to not just be part of the body, I want for you to celebrate the body. I want you to celebrate all the different pieces of the body. I want you to celebrate all the different things that I've brought together to be able to be part of your body and what it is that you're doing inside of your community. And so I want for you to be able to celebrate them and celebrate how God's working and all that God is doing inside of our church family. Because I want for all of us to belong. And I want to make sure that we're able to continue to move towards maturity. Why? Because you can't do it alone. And we can't do it without you. So with that being said, Nick, what do you do?
Thank you. He starts different every time, and it really throws me off. My name's Nick. I'm the community director here at Hoboken Grace, and I realize community is a very kind of popular word, but how we use that here at Hoboken Grace is how do we help people from Sunday find community, whether that's friends or family inside. Chris already set the table for us, no pun intended, with what dinner groups do. But our team is, what I love about it is that people come from all over the world and country to live here, to pursue an opportunity. But one of the things they leave behind is their family. And so we get a really awesome opportunity to help them belong here. We do that through two ways. We do that through our dinner groups, and we do that through our connection events. I'm going to talk about our connection events first. These are events that happen once or twice a week that are designed for you guys here and Sunday in our community. I would love for them to be as well for those people that are your friends, family, coworkers, and neighbors, that you can bring them alongside. Because often you may be inviting them to church, and they have no interest in coming to church. And a lot of that's just because of the building itself. Or they think that we're weird.
Well, they think church people are weird.
Right? And so we're trying to meet them.
Which we are a little bit, but...
I only get 2 minutes, man.
Yeah.
Man, now I'm killing myself. But it's a place where, they can meet in common. And so I'm looking for hosts who are people who love small talk, who love going and seeing someone who's isolated and helping them get connected into the crowd. If that is you, you know that already instinctually. And so I want you to find me because we love getting to put you in a place where you can really thrive. And you may not realize that's a gift that God gave you. And so we have a role for that here. And then the other one is our dinner group leaders. You may already be a part of a dinner group. I want to, rather than me try to talk to you about this, I want you to talk to your dinner group leader about this, because they came into their role with hesitations, whether it was something logistical or whether it was something that they feel like they weren't good enough for, or whatever it may be. Talk to them about that. And they're going to talk about the ways we partner with them to help support them so that they can create these awesome groups that they're a part of. So you're a part of.
Excellent. Luis.
Hey, everyone. My name is Luis. I oversee the communications department here at Hoboken Grace, and we are a storytelling team. That is how I love to describe what our team does, and that is what I'm really excited about doing in 2025, is just telling the story of what God is doing here at our church and in our community. And one of the cool ways that we get to do that is I get to engage with the people that want to share their stories, whether it's on video or a written blog or something like that. And the conversations that I've been having at the very end of 2024 for people that are going to be sharing in 2025 just really excites me. Not only that, because selfishly it's the favorite part about my job. And
if you don't know, Louise is part Canadian. That's the about.
That is the common misconception about me, is that I am Canadian. I am not, but you may hear a little bit of an accent, so sorry about that.
That's how much hockey he watches.
That is also very true. But I'm very excited about getting to share those stories with you, our church family, in this next year. And a unique team that we've been able to launch in this last year is our merch team, actually. And so we are huge in the comms department about really putting our stuff out there so that people know that we're here and they have a place and they have a home. And we do that through social media, digital media, whatever ways that we were able to do that. But one of the unique ways is through our merch. And so a lot of you have been able to pick up a piece of merch downstairs. And it's really cool walking around Hoboken sometimes and seeing some of the pieces of merch that we put out there, because it's really a conversation starter for us to be able to tell people about our community here at Hoboken Grace. And so a couple of months ago, we put out a shirt that said, we are created on purpose for a purpose. And I just see that around Hoboken and people having conversations about what that means. And that is truly very special in terms of telling the story of what we're doing here and how God is moving. And so I'm super excited for 2025, and we can't wait to come alongside you and for you to come alongside us in this mission.
Awesome. Yeah, I don't think many people think if they're a designer that there'd be a place to serve inside the church, but that's a really unique one. Kelsey.
Hey, I'm Kelsey. I lead the students groups here at Hoboken Grace. That is our middle schoolers and our high schoolers. If you have heard about Vibe, that's us. That's right. Vibe is a fun place to be. That is our Thursday night meetup where we come and, our mission at Vibe is to just help our students to create an authentic faith of their own and to grow in that. We want to walk alongside them in developing a faith that's going to be able to go with them every day, everywhere they go, into everything they do, and then one that's going to stay with them long beyond when they leave us and into their adult life. We really want to create a space here that is for them, one that they're excited to come back to week after week after week, and a space where they know that they are cared for and that they matter and that they belong. And our team is incredible, and the only way we're able to do what we do here on Thursdays and throughout the week. So we actually have a lot of teams within our teams. So everything that you experience here on Sundays, be it greeting at the door or hospitality or the way the space is so intentionally set up or worship or production or the group leaders and dinner groups, we bring that to our teens on Thursday nights. And it's a really cool thing. And we also have connection events for our teens throughout the week because we really want them to be able to create that community for themselves and to create that sense of family and belonging. So if Thursdays don't work for you, we have an events team that might. And one of the things that I hear a lot when I'm talking to people about the students team is they're like, oh, it's teenagers. Like, I don't know if I'm equipped to be able to connect with them or make impact in their lives or pour into them. And we're never going to be fully equipped, but you don't need to have all the answers or know all of the things. We'll come alongside you, train you, give you all the tools that you need to be set up for success. But I also want to encourage you to not discount how God can use you and your story and your past experiences and your unique gifts to impact the life of a teen. Or this goes for anyone, but especially if you have a heart for the next generation. You never know who's going to walk through that door, who is going to be sharing in a part of your story or walking in a piece of your past experiences, or who's just going to be like, hey, they're cool, and connect with you and relate with you, and then you get to be a part of their story and their faith journey, and that's a really special thing. And then one of the things that I'm most excited for in this year, when we started Vibe a couple of years ago, we were a small but mighty group of like 15 students. And this past Thursday, before we went on our Christmas break, we had over 70 middle schoolers and high schoolers in this space. So God has just been doing incredible things, and I'm just excited to meet new students and be able to meet them where they are and just walk alongside them this year.
Yeah, and I think, whether it's Vibe or Rachel's team, if you're watching online or if you're here, you're like, I can't serve on Sundays. These are great opportunities. People will often say, well, I can't serve because I'm not available on Sundays. Well, there's a lot of other time slots for you to be able to do that. Rachel, what is it that you do?
Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel. I serve here on our 409 events team. So one thing that is really unique about the positions on our team is that our department can be broken into two different sectors. So we have our internal events that we host, which are free to the community. Those are things like our story time that happens every Tuesday morning, our after-school movie every Friday afternoon, and our weekend workouts every Saturday morning.
I don't think people understand the scope of that. How many people are we averaging on our story time?
So for story time, we sit at 270 people every Tuesday.
270 people are here on Tuesday mornings. That's a whole service. That's a size of a whole service. It's incredible. And I think through December, we're averaging like 150 at our after-school movie. So
Absolutely.
she's talking about big events. These are big events that are happening on a weekly basis.
And then if you switch over to our second section, we have our external events. So with these there is a small fee involved, but we do offer these to the public, and these are going to be things like your birthday parties. We've hosted high school graduations, movie screenings. So we all heard the Bonhoeffer movie screening that's coming up in the middle of January. That's a great example of an external event with us. There is options to join the team in both areas, whether it's during the week or for our external events, which happen more in the evenings and on the weekends. One thing that is a misconception about this role is we are different from Connection Events. So Connection Events is established for everyone within our church community to meet up. They're already a part of us here with us at Hoboken Grace. And this role and this team in 409 Events, we are able to invite in our community and beyond. People that aren't here with us every Sunday yet, but we can welcome them to this space. Our space having a movie theater within a church building differentiates ourselves greatly and helps us to bring further people in to our one and only and our Savior. And that leads me to I'm excited for 2025 to see how God will continue to use this building, which He's provided as a tool to help individuals, amazing people like you, join our teams and bring us to accomplishing leading everyone to our Savior.
Excellent. You know, I think one of the unique service opportunities that you have is fitness instruction. So we have the weekend workouts, and I don't think many people here, maybe you're here and you're a fitness instructor, and you think, I don't know how I would be able to serve inside the church. You can be part of our weekend workouts. We've got a whole rotation of fitness instructors that do that for our community every single weekend, which is incredible. Anthony.
Speaking of fitness instructors, just kidding. You know that. So I oversee what's called the Equip department here at Hoboken Grace. Now, I think one of the most common misconceptions is our name. All right, Equip doesn't stand for equipment. All right, we're not lugging heavy gear. We are actually pulled from the verse that Pastor Chris was talking about earlier, the idea of equipping those to do the works. Right. So ours is all about next steps, celebrating next steps. And so that's why all of these teams are helping people I would say we're care and we're growth, right? We care for those and help them to take that next step. So you see things like financial health and baptisms and prayer and speaking team, and I don't even know what other teams, benevolence, care, church online, the counseling center, Equip Night, those are our classes. All of these are opportunities for people to feel cared for, and to grow. One of the things that I'm looking forward to in 2025 is, listen, since I started this role, I've had one number to want to hit for the last 10 years, and it's 100 baptisms. And 2024, we came as close as we've ever gotten with 80, all right? So we got very close. And I know there's just 20 of you out there right now just being stubborn, not letting me hit my number. We have What is Baptism right after this class, right after this service, second floor. I'll see you there. But my goal is to hit that number, right? We are a team. It's a team for you if you love to celebrate. Psalm 37 says that God helps us to take those next steps, and then He rejoices when we do. He celebrates that. So that's why we celebrate everybody that takes a step of baptism, that joins a class, right? That goes through FPU. I mean, these are big moments of people taking steps of faith. And so if that's you, I'd love to have you join us on the Equip, Not Equipment team.
Excellent. Danielle.
Hello, everyone. My name is Danielle, and I lead the neighborhood department here at Hoboken Grace. It's comprised of 3 different teams, the first which is Bridge Events. And so this team exists to put on our 3 main Bridge events throughout the year. If you're not familiar, that's the Easter egg hunt, our one-day community service, and then our Christmas exchange, which just happened a few weeks ago. And so these events are designed to bridge the gap between our current Hoboken Grace community and the broader city and surrounding areas. And these events are huge for bringing people into the space, like Rachel and others were mentioning, and getting them to see who we are and that we're just a little bit weird, and maybe they'd come back and see what Sundays are all about. And so the second team is our partnerships team. Though that team deals with all of our relationships both locally and globally. Right now we're in the middle of planning 2 different mission trips with our global partners. So this team works together to make sure they're all set to go. A misconception there is that you don't have to go on all of the trips to be a part of the team. So if you're excited about travel and new organizations and new places and you want to learn more, you can be a part of that team without actually having to go. And then a team that you might not be familiar with yet is our Simple Service team. This team exists to do simple acts of service in our city just to spread love. Things like handing out granola bars at the PATH station, or coming up this week, we're going to be purchasing coffees and teas for people commuting. So just little ways that we can spread the love of Jesus with those in our city. And a common misconception with our Bridge Events team is that you only have an impact the day of the event, so 3 times a year. That is so false. My Bridge Events team members that are in this room know that. We actually meet weekly on Sundays to prepare and plan for these events, and we will be starting already to plan our Easter egg hunt this next coming Sunday on the 12th. So it's a great time to join the team if you're looking for a place to serve.
Excellent. One of my favorite moments in the history of Hoboken Grace is we were walking out of an Easter egg hunt, and this woman was walking beside me, and she didn't know who I was or that I was connected to Hoboken Grace. And she turns to her friend and she says, "That was the bleeping best organized event I've ever been to." I'll let you fill in the bleep. But one of the reasons why those events are so organized is that they work on them all year round, and that team is unbelievable. Another thing with Simple Service is a team that, it's not really a team, it's more of a group of volunteers. And so if you're already a part of a team, you can volunteer to be a part of that. It's a great supplement. We usually discourage people from being a part of multiple teams, but that one is more, it's just kind of hit or miss throughout the year. And so if you'd love to be a part of that group that gets the update of when we're going to be out there and stuff like that, make sure that you sign up for that. Dana?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Dana. I have the privilege of serving with our band who leads us in worship every Sunday, and our amazing production team that makes this live service happen. Yeah. Something unique that you may not know, or positions you may not know exist in both of these teams. If you were here on Christmas Eve, you might know that there was not a seat open in this room. It was standing room only, and additionally, there was over 120 people across the hall in our movie theater space, which also every Sunday has live band and production. So that's an awesome way that we've been able to expand and will continue to expand, which is one of the things I'm excited about in 2025, that we have a lot of areas that we hope to grow and add new positions to on both teams. So there's a lot of open spaces for you to fill. It's a common misconception about production. I think a lot of people see the boards back there, the cameras, all the buttons, and they think, well, I don't really know what that does, so I can't be a part of that. And that's not true at all. We do have team members who do live production professionally outside of Hoboken Grace, but we also have team members who have learned how to do it here and just have a heart for learning something new, are interested in that, whether it's video production, sound, lighting, any of that. All of those roles are completely trainable. So if that's of interest to you, come on. If this is your wheelhouse, also come on. The band, I think the thing I hear the most in terms of misconceptions are, someone might say, oh, I play a little guitar, or I sing a little bit, but you don't need me. It looks like you guys are good, or I don't know if I'm quite good enough for that. And the thing I would say to that is we are always looking to grow our team. Our church is growing, and our team should grow with that. There is an application for the band and an audition, because we just want to make sure we can speak music. It's very chill. It's not like American Idol where Simon ruins your life in the middle of it. It is there so that we can do some music together and see if that's a good fit for you. So whether it's something you've done professionally or it's something that you've done casually, recreationally, we would love to have you apply and audition for that.
Excellent. Megan.
Hi, everyone. I'm Megan, and as you can tell from my beautiful orange t-shirt, I am in Grace Kids. My team is very excited. We're fun. But Grace Kids exists to help kids grow in their own authentic faith. Similar to Kelsey, we want to help this next generation to have a personal relationship with Jesus. We don't want them to just grow up believing what they believe because we told them to or because that's what their parents believe. We want them to have a faith that is their own. And so when they leave us to go to Vibe and then beyond, they're able to carry it with them throughout their entire lives. And so there's a lot of different ways to do that. And when I was looking at the questions to prepare, like, oh, what is a team that people might not know about on your team? I thought all of them, except for teaching, because people think Grace Kids and they think they have to teach a lesson. But as you can see, there's, 9 different teams on my team, and only 2 of them actually teach anything. So you can be on Grace Kids without ever coming in contact with a child. We have our resource team that helps us prepare a curriculum during the week. If you've ever fought with a printer, you know that is harder than it sounds, but I can teach you. And we have a hype team downstairs that sing and dance with our kids. If you love that, but this stage is a little intimidating for you, I have one downstairs. It's really a fun part of our Sunday. And then we have a lot of opportunities outside of Sunday as well. One of the things I'm most excited about for 2025 is being able to come alongside Anthony's team and what we're doing here as a church family in February and walking through Be Rich, because I know for me personally, Financial Peace University changed my life, and I want to be able to share that with every single person in our church. And so I have the unique opportunity of being able to provide Equip Kids, which is a team that will do childcare for all of our families that want to attend any Equip class, but specifically in February, the Be Rich classes. And being able to remove that obstacle of childcare so that they can come and learn about putting God first in their finances just fills my heart full of joy. So if you're available on Sunday afternoons, because I'm not going to lie to you, that is like the hardest time to find team members for, please come and find me at the end of the service. I will be right here. But no, I'm just really excited for that and just to see all of the first-time kids. We had over 210 kids today and 10 new kids. So exciting. And yeah, with more kids, we need more team members. So
Yeah, I think the biggest misconception about your area is that it's childcare, and that they're just down there taking care of the kids while the adults are up here, and not understanding the spiritual impact of it, which may be one of the most spiritually impactful places you can serve in our entire church. Sarah.
Awesome. Yeah, so I get the pleasure to work with an incredible group of people in the HR department, which is our team, the people who are on staff at Hoboken Grace. And also, it's not just our employees at Hoboken Grace, but also everyone who's on a team who leads a team and is a part of serving at Hoboken Grace. And so that's kind of a misconception for HR, is that it's just for the church staff, but it's actually for all of our teams so that we can have policies, procedures, and onboarding processes across all of our teams, because we have over 500 people that serve on our teams, and that's a lot of people. And we want to be able to love them and celebrate them. So we throw some events throughout the year, Team Link, Team Onboard, and our annual Team Gala, where we just get to say thank you to everyone who serves at Hoboken Grace. So that's a little bit about HR, and then I have another hat, which is facilities, and that is that we get to care for this wonderful tool that God has given us. And that looks many different ways, through our cleaning team, through our maintenance team, because as you can imagine, things break, things spring a leak, things need to be repainted and need to be taken care of. And so as we serve and love this building, we're building teams to be able to do that. And so one of the things I'm excited for in 2025 is watching people come and serve in that way of what they're gifted in. If you're gifted in electricity and plumbing, or you like working with your hands and putting things together, we always have a project and we're always working towards something. And so if you want to help us be able to care for this amazing tool as we welcome all these people that our teams have been talking about this morning, as we care and serve and create an amazing space for those things to take place. And then also the last team that I get to work with is our finance team. They work closely with our HR team as we, work through how we're being good stewards of what we've been given, our payroll, things like that. So if you're good with spreadsheets, if you love numbers, if you love investments, and that's how God has gifted you, please come and hear more and come be a part of our team.
Awesome. And then Anna.
Hi, everyone. I am Anna, and I oversee our First Impressions department. So that is connection points, decor, greeters, ushers. Ushers is on there twice, so apparently we really need ushers. Security, hospitality. We really work together, all of these teams work together to ensure that everyone that walks through our doors feels welcomed, that they feel prepared for, and that they feel loved. So if that is part of your personality, to just make sure that people feel loved when they walk into this space, come talk to me. One of the biggest misconceptions about First Impressions, or one of the teams that I think would be surprising that is maybe under First Impressions, is we do have a security team that ensures that we are all safe, right? So we have over 1,000 people that walk through our doors every single week, and we ensure that it is a safe experience. So if you have an eye for detail, if you like that kind of thing, if you're in the medical field, come talk to me. There are ways that we are expanding that team that is going to better care for our family every single Sunday. Another team that might be surprising to you is decor, right? And so if you remember, there were 15-foot Christmas trees here last week that were quite fun to put up. But we put up like 9 Christmas trees, and we decorated the entire space. And so if you love that kind of thing, if you like to decorate, set up spaces, be creative, we do that outside of Sunday to ensure that Sunday always looks good. And so I'm just excited to see the team grow. The more that our Sunday attendance grows, the more that our First Impressions department needs to grow. And so I'm just excited to see the leaders that are emerging and the new team members that are coming on board.
Excellent. So here's what I want for you to do. Pull out your phone. If you're not on a team already, pull out your phone, and if you scan the QR code in front of you, or if you open the app, you're going to see Join a Team at the top of that app. And you don't try to find the perfect place. You say, well, I got to figure out the perfect. No, just start somewhere. And you may meet with one of these individuals and you realize, okay, there's actually a better place for me to be able to serve, and that's great, but you need to start somewhere. So before you leave, make sure that you have signed up to be a part of some team. Why? Because you can't do this alone, and we can't do it without you. When you look at what God is calling us to be and where we're going, you can't do it alone, and we can't do it without you. Don't just attend. Belong. Belong to what it is that God's doing and the mission that he's carrying out inside of this community. Would you pray with me? Father, I'm so incredibly grateful for this team, incredibly grateful for this body, this family that you've brought us to be a part of. And I just pray for those who are not yet utilizing the unique way that you created them and gifted them as part of your body. I pray that they would take that step. I pray that if they have no other New Year's resolutions, that this would be their New Year's resolution, that I'm going to belong. I'm going to be part of what it is that you're doing inside of the community and utilizing my gift as best as possible in that. In Jesus' name, amen.